Hi, Mr. MegaManFan. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. You know all the things to do. This package just arrived from California, and it's got something rather special inside for Virtual Boy. Well, actually, it's got more than one thing inside for Virtual Boy, but one that really stands out compared to the others, and you'll see in just a second. So, let me go ahead and take all the packing material out of here. Got some bubble wrap and some paper and some other air pockets to keep everything well positioned. And here it is. You might already recognize it from the back, but if you don't, it's Jack Brothers. This is the first ever Shin Megami Tensei game released in North America, although this is the Japanese version of it because, quite frankly, what the US version goes for is ridiculous. So I opted for a more affordable option. And believe me when I say this one is cheaper complete in box than the North American one would be loose. And what's really silly about that is that with a simple menu selection, you press a few buttons, the game is in English no matter which version of it you get. So if you really want to pay that North American domestic surcharge, go right ahead. But this isn't even a game where the language is that much of an impediment to playing. You might want the menus in English, but the game itself is all action. This is not an RPG. I know I said Shin Megami Tensei, but let me be realistic about it. It's not necessarily the kind of Shin Megami Tensei game that you're thinking of. This is a maze game, and it does something very interesting with the Virtual Boy's field of depth perception that you get from the enclosure when you're looking into the two lenses. You actually have multiple layers of mazes underneath the one that you're currently standing on, and when you collect enough items, keys I believe they are, you drop down to the next level, and you can actually feel the depth of the levels as you go from one to the next. Now, it's not a pronounced effect. You're not going to get nausea or vertigo from feeling like you're dropping from a great height or anything, but still, it's a game that both shows off the technology and in some ways also shows off the limits of the technology for the 1990s. So it's a very interesting mix on the whole. And of course, the difficulty with any Virtual Boy game is that there's no way to reproduce that effect on the camera. You can't really see what I'm seeing right now as I'm looking through the eyepiece, but I'm going to give you my best attempt to show you what it looks like when I pull my head back. I'm going to point the camera at the right eyepiece and try to frame it up a little and then keep playing the game. But if you really want to experience this yourself and you don't have a Virtual Boy, you can do it one of two ways. You can just fire it up in an emulator and you won't get any kind of depth effect, but then again, it's a maze game, so it's fine whether you do or don't. It's still perfectly playable that way. Or if you have a Nintendo 3DS, and I recommend a new Nintendo 3DS for this, you can run a program called Red Viper. Now, you would need to jailbreak your 3DS, but that's incredibly easy to do. I've showed off how to do that several times in different videos, so you can just watch one of those, or you can search for 3DS Hacks Guide on Google and find out what the latest version of the steps are to do that, because they always update it to the most secure, reliable, and preferred method. So don't necessarily rely on a YouTube tutorial. Look to see what the latest version of it is. Anyway, it is much more what you would get. It's not necessarily the same using Red Viper, but it's going to be pretty close to recreating the feel of looking through the Virtual Boy lens. And you'll also get to do this if you are a Nintendo Switch Online subscriber on Switch or Switch 2, because they're going to release this on Switch Online next year. Unfortunately, you're going to have to buy the Virtual Boy accessory to be able to play the games, and some people have already expressed their displeasure with that, considering the accessory is going to sell for like, I don't know, $100. And I agree that's excessive. I'm no way justifying that price. But compare the cost of that to the cost of this one game alone, and this game is going to be on there. You might at least consider it if you want to play Jack Brothers. I'm not saying you should. I'm not saying you shouldn't. But I think a Virtual Boy fan would, and I've become one this year, so I'll be one of those idiots who actually does. And like I said, if you compare the cost of this game to the actual Virtual Boy accessory, maybe it seems a little more reasonable then. But any way you slice it, this is a very interesting game, and one that you wouldn't even really know is a Shin Megami Tensei game other than the character you can play as is Jack Frost from the series. So it doesn't have to be thought of as that game, but that fact that it is tied to that series has made it more desirable and more collectible. And given the Virtual Boy was a commercial flop, and this was a late release among the 14 games that were released in North America, you've just kind of got the perfect storm of all things that could go wrong to make a game collectible, desirable, and expensive. So I think you're getting the idea of what it's like here from watching this footage through the right lens. You just explore these mazes, pick up items, fend off the enemies, and you've got a timer that counts down, which you can see through the left eye, and each time you get hit, you'll lose a little bit of that timer, so you need to find all the items and progress to the next level before the timer runs out. If you don't have enough of them, you won't be able to unlock the gate and drop down to the next level. I guess I just don't know what to add other than that. You get abilities, you get shields, you get weapons, you get various things that add to the gameplay or help you achieve your objectives, or you fail to achieve the objective. You play the game the way it's to be played. And it's fun. It's not super complicated. You're not taking turns. You're not maxing out your stat. You're not equipping yourself to, have the best combination to fight off different kinds of attacks. It's not that kind of game. It's a simple, good, fun game. I feel like that also drives up the value in some respects because it's not overly complicated, and it's actually considered one of the best games on Virtual Boy other than Wario Land. Simple, fun, easy to play, easy to enjoy. There is one other affordable option for playing Jack Brothers if you want to do it on real hardware. You can get a flash cart for less than what this game goes for, and you do what you do. You find the game online somewhere and put it on your flash cart, and there you go. So you've got options, but the easiest one would probably just be playing it in an emulator and not even worrying about the Virtual Boy accessory or owning a real Virtual Boy or putting Red Viper on a 3DS.